Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind here for the Heroes of Rock tournament in Golf Clash the game. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button. Also, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. You can as always find free content about Golf Clash, a lot of it on golfclashtommy.com, your source in finding everything regarding anything in Golf Clash. You can also improve your game even more for tournament or tour play to get our exclusive tour text guides or ultimate tournament guides, which are the best guides on the market. Follow the info box on the right hand side to get the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with then when it comes to this playthrough. You obviously don't have to follow what I do suggest, but there is always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. Let's start off with shot number 1, and here I would advise you in headwind or crosswind to somewhat use, to use the driver with the most possible power. And the reason I want us to do that is due to the fact that we do want to not have to overpower this shot, or at least have to a very limited amount of overpower. Now I'm using the Big Topper level 7, and Big Topper level 7 is a very good and upgraded club, but I would suggest, as you can see in the info box, to actually go with an Apocalypse, which is a more frequent use club than the Big Topper level 7, because with an Apocalypse, even in level 4, level 5, and even in level 3, you're gonna have no problem to get the ball up to approximately the same area here, but without going with any overpower. You're gonna have to use some curl as well, and I would recommend to go with approximately 2 balls to the right. If you do have a tailwind, I would recommend to not bounce on that fairway. I would then recommend to go directly to the final fairway to have the first bounce there and try to land the ball on green instead. So the second shot from here is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be a wedge. I would recommend here to check what club distance you are in. You can see here that we're checking, okay, the pin stands in approximately 70% of our club. That we know now in that case. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to use EB School plus 20, and we're going to use 70% slider. Now I understand that EB School is mainly played without spin, but just to give you an idea, and especially if you're already following that method, again, if you haven't learned the EB School method, make sure to check out Jared Alexander's video here on YouTube and learn that method, because that will become very helpful for you. So, adjustment is done. Perfect ball is the only thing that is needed left, and a perfect ball, and this ball is gonna get ourselves to an eagle. Again, this doesn't matter what wind you're gonna have here. The headwind route is more interesting, as the tailwind route is a bit self-explanatory, as we can go then to the final fairway, actually get the ball to green. Very simple. So that's why I wanted to focus and give you the headwind route instead, so you can see to bounce on the first fairway. And again, you don't have to have a Big Topper level 7 to manage to do that drive. That shot, that club is only there for display. So, hole number 2, we're gonna start with whatever power 5 ball you have in complete minimum distance, with the white ring to the left by the rough line. 3 topspin, half a bar of side spin when we do have a direct tailwind. Obviously, if we do have a crosswind, angled wind, or a headwind, we're gonna have to use more topspin. Here I'm changing to a special ball, a wind ball. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can still play with a free-to-play ball, but reducing the wind is always going to be very helpful. And also, that's the reason why I'm choosing to portray a mummy ball to the right-hand side, which only has wind 4 and side spin 1. So again, you don't have to spend any of these better balls if you don't want to, but a wind 4 ball is definitely gonna be welcomed. Then obviously, as a worst-case scenario, using a wind 3 ball to at least reduce the wind a little bit. Medium distance with a 10% over adjustment, which with a power 1 ball settings, which is 1-to-1 minus 0.2. So 5 miles per hour, the wind is going to give us 4.8 ring adjustment. This, in my opinion, regardless what ball you're having, if you set up at this position that I do have here, in regardless what wind direction, you will be able to give yourself a very good chance for an hole-in-one on hole number 2. So, hole number 3, we're gonna play over to the island that is to the most right of your view. Here you can play in two ways, which if you do have a headwind or a crosswind, we're going to have the bounce on the second island over to the third. But if you do have tailwind, it's going to be much simpler if you go directly at it. I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy shot, but I would say this is going to be the only shot if you're going to find yourself actually with sort of an opportunity for an albatross. Obviously, you can go straight forward from T, going to the fairway that is the most left of your view, and just take it that way, and then have a tough second shot, but pretty self-explanatory when it comes to getting the ball to green to lock in the eagle. But that's gonna be no chance whatsoever to make an albatross from there. Max plus 10 is the adjustment, so I stretch out and then to visualize how many rings I am into overpower. So I then adjust the max plus 10, then I push up the needed rings to get my ball there. Spin will vary depending on wind direction, but obviously the idea is to get the ball to be as close to the top possible. Now for the second shot, if you do have a good drive, then we're going to play with a sniper to pin. And here you do need to have sniper level 8 or better. And what I would recommend is to use as much left spin possible to make sure to take yourself away from the bunker, because if the closer you aim to the bunker, obviously the much likelier it will be for you to get the ball into the bunker if you do make a bad adjustment. I have the ball guide lying approximately 1 green square short of pin, but also to the left of pin. This once again to help my ball to stay on track to get an albatross here. Max plus 20 is the adjustment that I'm using. I would somewhat recommend that if you are in complete max distance that you go with a little bit more. Perfect ball, and you will see that this ball will come in nicely, but unfortunately we will stop short in line, and obviously that sucks because that is not what we do want. So again, this is a tough par 5 to get an albatross on, but it's nice to actually have an opportunity, because if you're going to fight and compete for a weekend round spot, or you're gonna fight for a top spot in the weekend round, then you will have to at least give yourself a chance to drop this shot. Stuff that can simplify it for you from T is to use a power 4 or a power 5 ball. That will obviously as well also simplify the second shot and will make sure that you can always have room to play with your sniper. Again, it's up to you if you do want to spend a special ball or not, but this is a hole that is definitely going to be tough regardless what wind direction you're gonna have if you play with a power 3 ball or power 2 or power 1 or power 0. So if you can use a power 4 or power 5, that will definitely be an advantage towards the opponents that will not play with any of those balls. Alright, hole number 4 is going to be a tough par 3, and I attempted a couple of different rough bump with a couple of different wind angles, but it was super duper inconsistent, like this fairway pad are. As you can see that I'm moving around trying to find a spot that is somewhat consistent, but couldn't really find that. So this is going to be a very interesting par 3 in terms of, right, what would be the best route to attack this pin for an hole-in-one? This is a safe route that I'm showing you with, still a chance for an hole-in-one, but it's gonna be a slim chance in my opinion, because it's gonna be inconsistent first bounces, and that's going to be a problem. Max plus 20, power 3 ball settings. I'm using 4 backspin, 3 right spin, and speed-wise it comes in nicely. Just need to move the target a little bit more right to be a little bit more spot on. Kingmaker, as again, wind 3, side spin 3, it's helping out a lot, but obviously you can play with a different ball if you like. And sniper doesn't have to be a sniper 10, it can be as far down as sniper level 8. So let's take a look at the drive here, and if we do have a tailwind, crosswind or headwind, we're gonna play the same position. Headwind will change just a little bit, and I'm going to explain to that after the drive here. You can see half of the red ring inside the rough. I'm starting in complete max distance, changing a little bit because I want to give myself a little bit more room. So red ring by the rough line is perfect, and I'm playing with an Apocalypse 5 Plus if I do have that possibility. Otherwise I would go towards the extra mile, and then after that the Thor's hammer. But no matter what type of driver you have of those 3, you can still play the same drive. 2 left spin, is what I'm using, and then the topspin will vary depending on what wind direction we're gonna have. A 0.75 ball of curl to the left, try to hit perfect. You could also see that I pushed up my club to max to make sure that I'm getting the distance that I need to. Now, the closer we are to the rough line, the better it's going to be. But again, don't push it too hard, because if you roll into the rough, you have no chance whatsoever to reach for the green in two. It's better to be a little bit short to make sure that you can still reach, but you're going to have to use a little bit of topspin. Second shot, I'm going to use the sniper if I do have it in level 9 or better. Otherwise, I would go and try to play with the horizon, or I would go and play with the cataclysm or the big dog. Spin to pin is a classic expression here in Golf Clash, meaning that we're going to add the spin so the ball guideline goes to hole. And even though we get the ball guideline to hole, and even though it looks like a fairly simple shot, this is very difficult to get the correct speed on this type of approach. Obviously, getting an albatross here will, I was about to say random, but it's not going to be random, but it's going to be tough, and you're going to have to get all the details in the absolute perfect way. No elevation is my general elevation here, but I'm not against changing the elevation a little bit depending on what type of direction you have of the wind for the second shot. If you have tailwind or crosswind or headwind, you know, then you could change a little bit depending on what spin you're having. Speed was lovely here in this shot. Ball came in a little bit too much left, so we need to reduce the adjustment just a little bit. But again, this is going to change depending on what wind you have for the second shot. But this play that we're having here is most definitely going to be the play to play in the tournament and also in tour play. When you do have headwind, or let's say a direct headwind, then even with max overpower, you're gonna struggle massively to get your ball to do just a single bounce over the bunker. So what I would recommend in that case is to back up even more, use more topspin to do a double bounce over the bunker. I know that might not sound like the easiest thing in the world, but we do have a lot of room, and honestly, laying up to the right side in headwind is going to make you not reach for the green anyway. So then it's better to take the risk on the left hand side to do that type of shot where if you do make a good drive, you can reach, instead of trying to do be conservative and then go right and then you can't reach anyway. So then obviously what's the point going right side? Again, the hole number 5 offers an opportunity, but it's going to be a tough one to drop consistently. So here you will see two options, because depending on what wind direction we're going to have, we're going to play it two ways. Like if we do have any sort of headwind, we are going to play a bounce on the first fairway to get over to the second fairway. This because we cannot really reach to the second fairway and do the blast shot that I'm going to show you in the more aggressive options where we do have a more favorable wind. So choose the driver that gives you the most topspin. It could be an extra mile, Apocalypse, a Thor's hammer, doesn't matter. Choose the one with the most topspin. Max topspin and also some side spin to the right to counteract the wind. If I would be having wind coming left to right, I would use left spin instead of right spin. Adjust max plus 10. Here I would strongly advise you to push up to max if you do have the time. But as I don't have the time, then I'm using overpower instead to compensate for falling down into the water. Because what happens when you fall from a higher to a lower point, it means that you lose distance, which means that your first bounce is going to be further back. So again, if you drop down into the water, you need to push up, otherwise you will fall short. And that's why I used overpower as a last minute fix, because I found myself running out of time. Second shot, I'm gonna play with the Grizzly or with the B52. If I would be having the B52 in level 7 or better, that's gonna be the club that I'm gonna use this, as it is just a better club. Grizzly otherwise is also a really great club, as you do have a good ball guideline and accuracy. What I'm gonna look for doing here is to try to find a spot in that bowl lack area to try to just bounce myself up towards the pin here. Again, the longer you are on the fairway where we are shooting from, like the longer drive you are getting, the better it's going to be, because then you can play around this bowl-like area there to the left, and that will be a much easier way to drop. 10% elevation, true club distance numbers. or true club distance, meaning that if you are in medium distance you play 50% club, if you are in max distance 100% club, etc. This is a very forgiving spot and a little bit lucky to get this one swirly in, but again, you see the idea in what way to play this hole if you're gonna have to lay up. But again, we're gonna take a look at the more aggressive option, which is gonna be the way we play if we do have a favorable wind, because if we have a favorable wind, this hole is going to become an absolute must eagle. But if we do have a bad wind as we had now, we're going to see a lot of players struggling and we're going to see a lot of birdies. But let's take a look at the more aggressive one. For the more aggressive option, we are dependent on having just a little bit of tailwind. Again, we need to have a little bit of tailwind, otherwise this shot is not gonna be a possibility. So what I would like us to do here is to use a power fireball, stretch out to visualize the first bounce to be at the beginning of the final fairway. Meaning to be a bit, you can see there in my position where I want us to be. I'm using as much topspin possible in this scenario. If we would be having more a direct tailwind, then I would be reducing the topspin a little bit because I would obviously fly longer. Adjustment, max plus 10. Push up to complete max, and that's you're gonna do in regardless what wind direction you're having in strength. Max overpower. No curl whatsoever. The idea here now is to have the ball to just follow the fairway on the right side, roll itself to be close towards the green. You can play with whatever club really that you want here, but what I would say here is that the more power you have, the easier this shot is going to become for you. Again, if you do have more direct tailwind, you need to reduce the topspin, otherwise you're gonna roll too long. But I would otherwise keep everything exactly the same, and you will see yourself lock in a very simple eagle. Alright, you will see two options here. One where we do have crosswind, where I would say that this shot is going to be applied if you do have a crosswind or a headwind. I'm playing with a power 4 ball to start with. This is only to set up the position, so we do get into complete minimum distance with any power 4 ball. I'm setting in this case 5.8 bars of backspin and 2 bars of side spin to the left. Once that is done, I will change to a Kingslayer or a Kingmaker, depending on if you have the possibility to play with a Wind 4 ball, or you have the you need to play with a Power 3 or a Wind 3 ball instead. So a Kingmaker, Kingslayer doesn't really matter here. In the video, I play medium distance plus 10, which is 1-1. But as you can notice here, that we come in a nice way, but we do need a little bit more to get that ball in the hole. So I would recommend to play max plus 10, which would give us approximately a half a ring to a ring more in adjustment, which would suit much better when it comes to the result here. This is a tough par 3. I do have another option for you, which is going to be in tailwind, because in tailwind we do not have the possibility to play the shot that I just showed, because we're going to go in between clubs. So let's take a look what we can do in tailwind. For the option in tailwind, here I do have the Grizzly 11-9 equipped, and obviously if you do have Grizzly 11-9, I would recommend to play that. Otherwise, I would like you to go over to the Goliath or to the B52, as here we unfortunately do need a decent amount of power. So Grizzly level 7, level 8 will bring us too far back, which is going to cause a problem. I'm playing with 3 right spin and 2 bars of backspin, and you can see here now that the ball guideline looks really weird. But that's because the ball guideline does show that we're going to bounce on the first piece of fairway before the fringe. But in reality here, when we do have tailwind, we're going to have an extended ball guideline, and the first bounce will be as shown on the fairway, but the second bounce will then be on fringe / green. So you can see here we bounce on the fairway, on fringe, and then we do have a much nicer rollout. And unfortunately, we do take a 360 around the hole, which, again, it's very unfortunate. But again, this is a tough par 3. I play max plus 20, and I play with my Grizzly 11-9 from absolute max line. A Kingmaker is what I would recommend to reduce the wind. Obviously, special balls and stuff is also recommended, because on a tough par 3 like this, the less wind we have to adjust for, the easier it's going to be to actually be rewarded with a drop or two. But I do believe that this is one of the few par 3s, I would say, not few par 3s, but this is one of 2 par 3s, such as hole number 4 and this one here on hole number 7, to be tough ones to get an hole in one, whereof hole number 2 is most definitely going to be the much easier of them 3. So here I'm gonna show you one video and one video alone, and this because we're gonna play this way in regardless what wind direction we're gonna have. I would strongly advise you to play with minimum a power 3 ball regardless what wind you're going to have. And it's gonna be two plays here that's going to be slightly different depending on if you do have a more direct tailwind or if you do have a crosswind or headwind. So if you do have a tailwind, we're gonna set up just with the bullseye by the rough line. Our idea here now is to have the the first bounce to be just over the water. So we're gonna actually push this ball to not bounce on the first fairway. So rather to bounce on the second fairway to easily get over the bunker and roll towards the green. Max plus 10 is the adjustment, and a push up to max with a power 3 ball. Obviously, if you play with a power 4 or power 5 ball, you don't have to push up to max, which would also in that case remove the need of overpower. Let's say that you do have a crosswind then. I'm gonna restart the video here for us all. So if you do have a crosswind or a tailwind, crosswind or headwind, what we would like to do here then is to actually have the first bounce on that fairway. So the first fairway we do want to have the first bounce on, and then have the second bounce as the ball guidelines show there, to then bounce over the bunker and roll towards the green area. A little bit more difficult, but as this is such a short hole, you have no value in trying to lay up in regardless what wind direction you're going to have. So you're gonna have to push it for that. So have that in mind. And obviously if you do have a headwind, a ball with more wind resistance will be helpful, but otherwise you're going to have to go with more overpower. The more topspin you have on your driver with that shot like that is definitely going to be super helpful as well. So a couple of things to think about, but in the end though, it's going to be a simple eagle for us in regardless what wind we're going to have here on hole number 8. So, right into the action on hole number 9. We do want to play on the left hand side using as much topspin possible, and I'm also using a little bit of left spin when the wind comes left to right. That would be the same if I would be using right to left or having right to left wind, then I would be using a little bit of spin to the right instead to counteract in that way. Adjust is max plus 10. And here I'm using max overpower because we do have a lot of fairway to cover here. And again, the closer we are to the top, the better it's going to be for the second shot. And you can see here, we're basically like 50 yards away from the end of the fairway. So again, push this drive as hard as possible. Those of you that do have the possibility to play with a power 4 or power 5 ball could definitely do so. Again, it won't change what we're playing for the second shot because we are still just playing for an eagle. I'm not expecting this hole to be an albatross hole at all, really. Sure, we could be lucky and get ourselves an albatross or two, but I base my non-willingness of going for the albatross based on how the ball guideline look here, because this green is glitchy. If we push too hard, the ball could glitch and roll over the green and into the rough on the back. That has happened many times when you have tried to push this drive as hard as possible. The rough bump there to the right or the rough there is very inconsistent as well, which is also good to have in mind. So what to do then? Bounce on the fairway, try to aim for the pin. Obviously make sure that you're not gonna go and get that glitch roll, so try to move around a little bit to try to find a firm spot. Playing this one max plus 10 here, the ball gets up towards the green, and sure, it's semi-close, but not really that close in my opinion. So in my book, this is an eagle hole, but again, you know, we are trying to get an albatross because we obviously have an open shot towards the pin. And maybe with a power 4 ball, power 5 ball, with the new boost balls that we do have a possibility to maybe attack the pin a little bit better than we have been able to do before. But again, I stand by with the fact that we're gonna see majority eagles here, and those that do get an albatross here should consider themselves a bit lucky and also very happy, because that will be an advantage towards your opponent. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division. Playing from second tee here for the Heroes of Rock tournament in Golf Clash the game. As always, make sure to always prep the best possible way for the tournament by getting the ultimate tournament guide for Pro, Expert and or Master. Link to the guides and Patreon is always directly in the description down below. Video sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Once again, thank you so much for watching and a massive good luck in the Heroes of Rock tournament.